and girls, GF97 here. Welcome to today's video where we'll be reviewing Series 1, now take with a pinch of salt because I've been confirmed for Series 2, the series Class, which is the latest Doctor Who spin-off. I'll be taking a look at the series as a whole, looking at the characters, the individual episodes briefly, sharing your thoughts, and also stick around to the very end where I'll be also giving a mini review of the DVD and presenting my rankings of the episodes. Just a reminder that if you haven't seen Class, which I don't think a lot of people did, based on the viewing figures, I will be delving into spoilers in this review. So if you haven't watched it yet, go watch it and come back and watch this review. So without further ado, the bell rings, it's time for Class. Cue title. Class debuted in 2016 on the new BBC Three online service. There was a lot of pressure going into it really because it was the only Doctor Who content we had for 2016. So I guess a lot was riding on it, and I don't know if it was made especially to sort of fill the gap. It was quite a big risk as well because, you know, it didn't have no sort of characters which had been established in Doctor Who. The only established thing really was Coal Hill School, which Clara and Danny Pink worked there, but it was more of a background. Obviously, you know, one episode which was the Keddig. So apart from that, it had no sort of established characters like Torchwood and Sarah Jane Adventures did. So there was a lot riding on it. The whole series essentially is an 8-hour story. I say that lightly, obviously, because there are episodes which do different things. However, the main theme obviously connects them all is the 4 students, Miss Quill versus the Shadow King. Our first series could have been better sort of binge watched. Like these episodes were released weekly. But I think if they did sort of something like Netflix do, just release the whole series, I feel this could be better enjoyed as one package. I was going to say from the get-go, the acting from the primary 4 students and also Mateus, well, they were just amazing. They were really greatly cast, really diverse cast as well, which was great. And even the actress who played Tanya, Vivian Oprah, I believe she came straight from acting school into this. Talk about first jobs. If I was to pitch this show based on watching it and based on other Doctor Who spin-offs, I'd probably say it's a mix between Torchwood and the Sarah Jane Adventures. Obviously, sort of bringing it more to Torchwood due to the gruesome and adult nature of the show. But being set in the Doctor Who universe, there are certain sort of conventions which I did feel held it back in a way. However, I don't think if the Doctor Who brand wasn't on it, I don't think most people would glance at the show. And based on the viewing figures, it seems like most people sort of batted an eye at it. Which is a real shame. The title and the song were very interesting choices. I kind of said it was trying to be sort of hit and fresh, which was mocked quite a lot online. But the titles did grow on me, both combination of the visuals and the song. Sometimes it worked, but sometimes, like in the finale for example, where you have a very dark pre-title sequence and you go straight into these really funky and very upbeat titles. It's very much a juxtaposition. Heck, I even have the Class theme tune now as an alarm on my phone, so as I hear the da-da-da-da-da, it's just like I'm instantly awake. So thanks for Class for waking me up. Delving into the characters now, initially we have Charlie, who was a prince on his world, and obviously he's very connected to Mrs. Quill's character. I found his character very tedious, because for the whole series it was just like, shall I use this weapon? Shall I not? Shall I use it or shall I not? Obviously a lot of parallels between sort of the Doctor pressing the moment in the Time War. But I just found it really tedious, and that's what his character sort of revolved around. And apart from that, it was just very boring and really unrelatable. It was cool, he was an LGBT character, that was a really nice touch. But apart from that, I don't know, there was just nothing really. I don't feel there's anything appealing to his character. As I said, obviously he was left on Earth by the Doctor with Mrs. Quill. She was great. I think she was my favourite character. I sort of knew that going in. I was just like, this character's going to be good. I felt like her character could do anything pretty much. She was, through the whole series, trying to get away, obviously, from the device in her eye, which was sort of keeping her restricted. But it was a really cool motivation she had, and you could feel just she was very unpredictable, really likeable, really witty character. From one fun character to another, we had Mateus, who was Charlie's boyfriend. His banter was honestly just on point 24/7.
Even with a gun, you should never turn your back on an angry Paul.
If this series does get serious, I'd really like to sort of focus more on his character. We did get some background information about his sort of family resenting him for his choices, but it would be nice to get a sort of character focused episode for him, because I think he's as much as the main core group as the others, really. April's character, I felt, was very much like Charlie's, quite bland really. It was cool seeing obviously you have this sort of stereotype at the beginning with her being sort of all one of the sweet innocent girl, and obviously sort of having sort of the independence to sort of go on to become King of the Shadow King for a bit. But apart from that, again, it was just nothing to it really, I guess. I thought it was going to be the same for Ram. However, watching literally the first episode, he changed my mind. His character was just, you thought, oh, he's just going to be the sort of typical bad boy bully, but he did grow into a really cool character who literally just went through so much rubbish in that series. Like, his family and friends and lovers were just getting killed off one by one. I don't know who put up with it all. But it was great because you did see the sort of realness of loss. Obviously, they quickly killed his sort of prom girlfriend at the time in episode 1, and they had another episode basically dedicated to that, which was really nice the series could do. And finally we had Tanya, who was a pretty funky character. However, she kept reminding us, oh, I'm 40, I'm younger than you. She just keeps saying it, sort of keep reminding the audience, like, yeah, I'm not the same age as these people, even though I do look the sort of same age. Which obviously none of them really look like high school people anyway, so there you go. The main series threat was the Shadow King / Shadow Monsters. In the first episode, I did really like them. They were a real threat. They came in chopping people's legs off, killing people. They seemed a really great threat. I think they did run their course quite a bit. However, when the finale came around, you were just sort of wanting it to end, and it became a bit tedious, really. There was obviously a massive plot hole with, like, how did he sort of get from episode 5, sort of being in prison, to episode 8. No pun intended, but I did feel the sort of other monsters and aliens in the series were overshadowed by the Shadow King. For example, episode 4 and 5 features this great idea of these petals that actually multiply and burn people alive when they sort of attach to your skin. Really cool. But you had the plot of the Shadow King, which completely basically took over that storyline, even though it was sort of trying to be conjunction with one and the other in that episode. And for them to be sort of lackluster at the end was fairly disappointing. Briefly summarising each episode, episode 1, For Tonight We Might Die, was a fairly solid opener. It had major pacing issues, sort of chucking loads of information at you, hoping it sort of stick to you, but mostly just went completely over your head. It would have been nice if it was maybe a two-parter. Like, I know they released episodes together, so maybe it would have been cool if they had this spread of a two-parter. So we get to know the characters a bit more, and I think that's the problem overall the series, really. Like, some character beats were sort of pieced together like a puzzle that wouldn't go together. Of course, the Doctor cameoed in that episode, which I felt was unnecessary. You could tell they were just sort of like, right, if we just put the Doctor in this, people are going to watch it. And I think many people just watched the episode for the Doctor and didn't watch the rest of the series, which is a shame. Episode 2, Coach with Dragon Tattoo. I personally enjoyed. I know a lot of people don't really like it, but I think it's a fairly solid story. And obviously the end scene with Ram and his dad was a really touching scene, but I think the episode complements that scene, building up to it really well. Live visiting was very touching character piece for Tanya. The threat was pretty cool with Mia and Morhuvian sort of saying that they are basically crinoids. But for me, I think the episode did drag quite a lot. There was a lot of padding stuff, which made me start to feel very engaged with the story. Conan of a Lonely Heart was my least favourite episode of the series. I know this is because it was very April focused, but it was very plot heavy with the overarching stuff, and they put the governors in there. It was just a mess for me, really. It was like the story was confused with itself. And also, it had the worst Doctor Who scene I think I'll ever see, to be honest.
How the
Bravish Heart was a slight improvement, but not much. I liked the aspect the families getting involved. It gave me vibes of the Rusty Davies era. Detained, I thoroughly enjoyed. I felt it was the most unique episode of the series. Obviously, it is basically a copy of Midnight, but hey ho, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. The Metaphysical Engine, or what Quill did next, felt was the best looking episode. I think the first 30 minutes were a bit meh, and I wasn't really enjoying it. I don't know if it was because I was trying to keep up with all this stuff. It was just like bouncing all over the place. However, the last 15 minutes did really elevate the story. So at this point, the sort of first 30 minutes were a bit meh. And the final episode, The Lost, was an enjoyable and surprising finale, killing off one of my favourite characters in the first 5 minutes with Ram's Dash. Just like, oh no. Our first finale did have accumulation though, of sort of all the sort of bad bits and good bits from the series, sort of all the best bits and the worst bits accumulated in this episode. But it was a decent end to the series with some interesting cliffhangers. Of course, you had the surprise of the Weeping Angels, which I feel most people watched and not watched the series. Watching it on YouTube, just those sort of few seconds. And obviously April being in the body of the Shadow King. My honest reaction to that, I just laughed for a solid 5 minutes and then started to cry like, oh no, what have they done? So it would be interesting to see how they overcome that in Series 2. They may not. Even if it doesn't get a Series 2, I'd love to know how they're going to get around that or what they're going to do with that. That it's just so odd. So my overall thoughts on the series was very underwhelming. It did obviously have its sort of cheesy dialogue and convoluted plot, but it was edgy. It did take risks, and there were some great character and sort of set piece moments throughout the series. It was just sort of stuff in between. I think for Series 2 what would be so beneficial is to have different writers come in, because obviously each episode is written by Patrick Ness, which is fine, but I feel going forward maybe having different writers come on board just give that a bit more spice. So you can buy Class on DVD and Blu-ray. However, I was very disappointed with this release. Basically, it features obviously all 8 episodes and one 15-minute documentary. I don't think it really gives you the ambition to go out and buy the DVD. I buy the DVDs in that because I'm just a hardcore fan and collector, and you know. But if I was a casual fan, I wouldn't pick up, because obviously the episodes are on BBC iPlayer already. You can just watch them. And it's just a 15-minute documentary, which is interesting. However, most of the stuff on that documentary you can just watch free on YouTube. So a very poor release. As you can see on the screen, that's my sort of rankings for each episode. Obviously in last place being a co-owner of A Lonely Heart, mainly because of sort of its focus on April and just that one scene. All I have to say is just that one scene. And obviously Detained being my favourite. Again, I absolutely love Midnight, so as I said, if it ain't broke, don't fix it, in a way. It's now time to go to your thoughts on Class, and I was so amazed by the response. I got so many different people chipping in their thoughts on the series, both people who love it and hate it. It was really, really great, so thank you for that. I asked on the social media accounts for the channel, so the Facebook page, Twitter page and Instagram. Starting on the Facebook page, Alfie Shaw said, I think that Class was different and I'm glad they took some of the risk. I think all the characters were a bit one-dimensional. I thought any character development felt very forced. He thinks if there's going to be any development, it should be subtle, like Ace's relationship in the Doctor throughout her time in the TARDIS from the 80s. But overall, the first few stories are decent, and the last episodes felt a bit rushed. But overall, a good spin-off, but it is no Sarah J. Adventures or Torchwood from YouTuber TARDIS Traveller. I feel it's the opposite for me. I think I enjoyed the later episodes and the first episodes. The great thing is about sort of media and sort of TV and film is that people have so many different opinions. It's all subjective. So yeah. Brian Burris, aka Dr. Freedom, says after night visiting, it plummeted downhill into an abyss like a snowball heading for hell. The two-part was abysmal. I can agree. I hated that two-parter. And the fact that the Weeping Angels need a secret board of governors to run a school as a prelude to an invasion is beyond comical. You have Charlie who cries so much, I'm shocked they don't have a janitor following him with a mop. April suddenly transformed into a super galactic warrior at the drop of a hat. Yeah, I know, right? Tanya, who seemed to be constantly reminding everyone that she's 14. Yeah, I know, because if you didn't, nobody would know. And after her so-called hacking, she does nothing at all to further any storyline. Yeah, she had that sort of main character piece episode, and yeah, she didn't really do anything else really apart from tell her she's 14. Ram, who went kick-ass and courageous to weakling in an instant. Quill was like the only character to really shine throughout the whole debacle. Oh yes, so let's not forget the bonking Shadowkin. The show had potential, but was in the end a poor imitation of Buffy the Vampire Slayer. Yeah, I've seen bits and bobs of Buffy, but I think a lot of people that have watched Buffy and are very much fans of the Buffy I've seen online when people sort of started comparing it to that before the show was released, they're just like, no, and by seeing it, everybody sort of agrees as well. So it's interesting that comparison was made. Still on the Facebook page, Isaac Johnson says, I feel it got progressively worse. I liked the first 2 episodes, but then my interest got lower and lower as it went on. Yeah, I spoke to so many people online and friends of mine, like Billy for example, that have only just watched the first 2 episodes, which is quite disheartening really, but obviously the series didn't grasp them in those first couple episodes. And also the main thing people have just watched is A, the Doctor cameo, and B, the Weeping Angel cameo. People haven't even watched the series, but that's sort of the show's fault for not grasping the audience in episodes 1 and 2. Ollie Ingram says, I think the class had potential, but it suffers from a lack of character development, as I felt the only one character who was really fleshed out was Ram, at least out of the students. Also, monster-wise, they really did lack some memorable monsters. The Lankin being my own true favourite, I felt they wasted the trickster actor as the Shadow King. I would have preferred if he played the trickster, as he caused these cracks in time. Yeah, that would have been a very good idea. If there is a series 2, I hope Patrick Ness can look back at criticism and take note. Yeah, I feel that. I think if certain things were tweaked, I do feel this series could be a real blast. I hope Patrick Ness does see the constructive criticism, because I think personally, if it was certain aspects were tweaked, I think it'd be an amazing show. Still, I think it's a fairly decent and good show. But I feel for it to be sort of up here, I feel there could be certain things to tweak. I need to see a Monster Calls actually, because apparently people say that's really, really good, and sort of exceptional compared to his writing on Class, so I will need to check that out. Patrick Shearer says, I think it is okay, it's not the best spin-off now, is it? But I don't mind, and Torture is still my favourite spin-off of all time, but Class okay, all the same. Tom Bowen says, I think it showed potential with some great performances and ideas, but I feel the writing and overall tone of the series felt somewhat confused. My biggest issue was the dialogues. I felt either it was too watered down to be teenagers or too eloquent to teenagers. I feel it played it too safe instead of just going all day with a darker tone, but I do really enjoy the certain episodes like Night Visiting and Detained. On Instagram now, Clownman in the TARDIS says, I binged it today on Blu-ray. It was a second watch, still don't enjoy it at all, but miss Quill though, flame emojis. That's also the point of the series being binge watch. I think that was a real missed opportunity really, because there is really one story, with obviously little mini stories in there, but I think it would have been better if you could binge watch. Dr.Who.Home said, I enjoyed it early on, but as the series progressed I found not enough development was taking place. I thought the YA label wasn't used enough by episodes 1 and 2, but after it lacked in the maternity. As cool as Capaldi was, he shouldn't have been there, but I love a series 2. Punk142 says, a complete letdown. The first 2 episodes were amazing and the rest felt flat. Don't think it's going to get a second series anytime soon. I say I'm hoping for one, because I think there are certain things they could improve on to make it really cool. However, there is no audience for it, I don't think. Not a large enough audience to grant it a series 2. So it will be interesting to see if there is any announcements in the next coming months about a series 2. The Gallifreyan Hoover says, it's a love/hate thing for me. I thought episodes 1, 2 and 7 and 8 were quite good, but the rest felt very weak. Patrick Ness hyped it all up, but it felt like such a big letdown to me. I thought the Shadow Kin had potential and wanted to see more of them, but I was disappointed to see them killed off in the finale. Some of the acting from the main cast was so wooden, but considering that it's their first proper acting job, I'm willing to let them off. Tanya's cringy racism didn't help either, nor did the unnecessary sex scenes. It felt like it was lacking in many places. They realised this and went over the top to make up for this, but it didn't work. If I'm being very generous, very generous, I'd give an overall 7.4 out of 10. I think it should continue on book/comic form unless Series 2 saw some major improvements. It's interesting they mentioned about it being continued on sort of comic book or book form. I do have the 3 books, I haven't had a chance to read them yet, but I have heard many good things about them which sort of fill the gaps for character development and stuff. If it doesn't get a Series 2, it will be interesting to sort of see them conclude the story in a comic book or a book, preferably a comic book. I like some visuals. And finally on Twitter, @PinkTroy says it's good, but the distribution methods have set it up to not have a second series despite the cliffhanger. Shame. I would love to know what was going on in the marketing for the BBC for Class. It was very much lacklustre really, compared to the promotion Doctor Who gets. Like, you'd think with a Doctor Who spin-off, just like, it's a Doctor Who spin-off, but No, there was none of that really. Bob Jenkins 42 says, one of the most mediocre TV shows of the decade. The only bad episode is episode 4. The only good one is episode 7. Just mediocre at best. Dule011 says, it's an awful show. In my opinion, doesn't work well with the Doctor Who universe. So there you go, some really interesting opinions there. Thanks to everybody who shared their opinions. If you wish to do so in the future, follow me on the channel's social media accounts, and I will be posting when I want your thoughts for a review. What I can get from that is most people don't really like it. I don't think it sort of grasped the audience it was going for. Personally for me, I thought it was a solid series in a way. It was nice to get those sort of vibes of Torchwood in this show. There's a real standout characters and ones which were very flat. And the Shadowkin started off very well, but became very lacklustre in the end. I do hope it gets a series 2 because I think there is a way to build and construct a really cool second series. Would I say the Weeping Angels? I think that could be a really cool premise. It will be interesting to see the Governor's Line panned out if it gets a second series. A big if. As I said, the viewing figures for the series haven't been great at all. So I hope you enjoyed my review of Series 1 of Class. Again, thanks to everybody who shared their comments on the series. If you've got any thoughts you'd like to share, I'd love to continue the conversation down in the comment section below. It would be great to hear more opinions on the series. My next video is another Class related video. I've done a ultimate trailer for Series 1 of Class. That'll be coming out shortly. So as always, guys and girls, please comment, like and subscribe. You can follow me on Twitter like GF97 Facebook page, follow me on Instagram, all the links to social media in the description below. And yeah, so thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you next time. Class out. Bye bye.